see that? Yeah, that's right. I was getting married. That's why I've been gone for so long. Haven't posted a lot of videos, but a lot of people were asking for TURO updates. So I'm back, and here's where we're at. Anyone that's new here that clicked this video, let's give a quick recap so everybody knows where we're at as of the last video. Two years ago, I tried renting my own personal car on TURO to make some extra side cash. I'll never forget the feeling of when I watched my car leave my driveway with somebody else driving it. It was awful. Within 2 rides, somebody smoked a fat joint in it, and my car smelled like weed for months. Of course, I was outraged because I keep my car super clean. Not only did I get no money for it, my own personal car smelled like weed for a very long time. But after about a year later, and the emotions died down, I realized that I was actually making pretty decent money on one car that I rented out when I wasn't using it. But, like I said, I didn't want the stress of renting my own car out again. So my solution? Buy another car. And so that's what I did. I bought a 2014 Ford Escape for $5,500 and 0 down. And to be honest, it worked. So I bought another one, 2019 Jeep Cherokee. Again, beautiful. 0 down, $13,000, I think. And then most recently, I just got a 2016 Porsche Macan, around $22,000, and again, I put 0 down. Even though everyone told me not to do any of that, the TURO earnings cover all the loans and insurance, and so essentially I haven't paid a dime on any of these vehicles in the last year. And so that's where I'm at as of my last video. And now that everyone's caught up, I'm very upfront with the money that I make in this TURO adventure because I've watched plenty of entrepreneur videos in the last 10 years where these people show that they make $100,000 a year and you're like, wow, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out those people are also having business expenses of like $200,000. So really they just show you the earnings or the sales or whatever, and they're not making any money. So I like to be upfront with you guys. I like to tell you money coming in, money coming out, just so you know what you're getting into if you ever decide to do this, you know. This year, as of July 7th, the TURO earnings from January to today have been $13,942.62. And on top of that, like I said, I was getting married in June, so we really didn't run it out that month. I kind of just turned them off for basically the entire month. But to be honest, that's almost $15,000, and my goal this year is to hit $30,000 in earnings. And if we keep going up like we were before June, should hit that with no problem. Now, the things that people don't show you are the costs that it has costed me to do this. And the total cost so far for this year was $13,140.07. That leaves us with a whopping $802.55. Not a lot. Like I said, I'm going to give you it real, and it ain't going to be fake. But in my head, I'm building a foundation, and I truly see the potential in this, and I'm just making sure that when I really like scale and start just buying cars, that it all doesn't come crumbling down. This year had a lot of maintenance that were kind of like out of the ordinary. I had one person break my radio in the Jeep, and it wasn't cheap to fix. And I had a battery go dead in the Ford Escape that I had to change, and for some reason they decided to put the battery up into the dash under like the windshield, so I just paid for someone to do that. So another expense that costed money. I also paid for another car, the Nissan Rogue, which is a car I don't rent, but I paid for the AC to be fixed in that because we use that car to drop off other cars, so I was able to pull that expense under the business expense. What a lot of people don't recognize is because I have Q's cars, a lot of the expenses that I paid for, like gas and other vehicle maintenance, I can pay for it out of Q's checking account because now it can be operating as a business expense. So even though I'm not really that profitable and I don't personally see any of the money, it has saved me and my wallet a pretty good chunk of money. Perks of business taxes. Anyway, with all of those like out of the ordinary expenses, they normally operate 60 to 70% profit margin, which is pretty freaking good. So I'm going to keep this going, like I said, and we're going to see what happens. And what's probably going to happen is I'm probably going to run out of money and I'm going to be living on the streets. So stay tuned for that video.
Babe, can you take the trash out?
Yep.
Hey,
Yeah.
can you help me on What'd you get?
Nothing.
Babe? Babe?
Check out ARROWZOOM, where you can soundproof just about anything. I want to go through some of the things I've learned since the last video, because to be honest, I learn a lot like every day from doing this. And so that way, if you're interested in doing this, you kind of get like the full scoop of everything. Number one, nobody knows anything. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but I've heard things like don't buy depreciating assets, don't put zero down on a loan, don't get this car, that interest rate is too high, etc. And every single piece of information that someone has told me so far has literally been wrong. The two cars that I was told to not buy, the Ford Escape and the Porsche, are my most profitable cars that I have. Now, the car that everybody told me to buy when I was picking another car was the Jeep. And guess what? That's the least profitable, and it gives me the most problems out of my entire fleet. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to anybody, like don't be an asshole, because to be honest, you and I don't know anything either. If you know everything, then how are you gonna learn anything? But at the end of the day, they're not running a car rental business, so what do they know, right? Like, you never take advice from someone who you don't want to be. Doesn't make any sense. Unless they do run a car rental business, then I would make them your mentor. The second thing I've learned in the last couple months, buy nicer cars. Let me explain. Because if I were to go back and do it all over again, I'd probably do it the same exact way. Because like I said, my first car was $5,500 and I was worried. I don't have a lot of money, so if I buy a car and it doesn't rent, now you have to pay insurance and the loan on that car and whatever else to keep it running. So of course you kind of want to start with a car that's not crazy expensive. But there's a rule known as the 80-20 rule. It's basically a rule about efficiency. 20% of your customers might generate 80% of your earnings. And basically what it's trying to say is a lot of times what you don't spend a lot of effort on tends to be what makes you the most amount of profit. And it's completely true. The Porsche makes me 80% of my earnings, and I spend about 20% of my time on it. Because not only does the Porsche make more money, but the people that rent it don't cause problems. I don't have to make them happy over messages. They show up, I give them the keys, they say thanks, and they give it back, and it's usually pretty spotless. Whereas the Jeep and the Ford Escape usually come back absolutely torn apart, and they're always complaining about something. The smell, the way it drives, the sounds. For example, I had a lady who rented the Jeep, and she told me that the engine was broken, and it turns out it was just the automatic start-stop. When the engine stops at a red light or a stop sign, the engine turns off to save emissions. And she told me that that button to turn that off was for the automatic transmission. So she told me how my car was supposed to be ran, which doesn't make any sense because it's not really her car. But what I've learned from this is that I kind of want to get rid of the economy cars and stick with higher perceived value cars. I know I always say that, but sometimes taking the bigger risk for the more expensive thing ends up paying out in the end. And even if it's not more money, if it's less time, then it really is more money. And the other thing I've learned is tip number 3, the beginning sucks. The first 6 months of this kind of blow. You get the worst clients, you don't make a lot of money, you're never booked. I mean, I was barely breaking even, right? I was making like a little bit of profit. It's almost like TURO's like trying to wean out the weak because they can't trust you. You don't have any reviews, and they don't know if you're in it for the long run, basically, because TURO only wants people that are going to continue to rent their cars on the platform, because the more money you make, the more money TURO makes. But after around the 60-month mark, like almost to a T, our cars started booking like crazy, in and out all the time. They're never home. And we started getting clients that took care of the cars, didn't complain, and just a lot better people in the vehicles than they were beforehand. And I can only imagine as an all-star host, it'll probably be even better. So after 6 months and 90 trips with over 99% 5-star reviews, TURO was probably like, hey, we can trust these guys. Let's give them clients that are going to keep them on the platform, basically. So if you have any plan of starting on TURO, just remember that. You plan on making some serious money with this, you're in it for the long run, or you're going to regret it. So I've been thinking of making like a video of like all the things that I've learned, almost bullet pointed. about Turo and like renting cars. If anyone is at all interested in that, let me know. I legit read every single comment that comes onto my channel and I reply to every single one of them. And I'm gonna do that until it becomes too much. So if you want to see that, let me know, because I could probably make that video pretty quick. And lastly, if you're new here and you want to be part of the 2%, check out some of my other videos. I recently learned that 1 in 4 Americans are obese and 1 in 10 Americans work for themselves. And so if you're like me and you want to be in both of those categories, or the 2%, stick along and watch the videos. Check out my channel, because those are the videos I post about, and you can see all the mistakes that I make, and we can be a part of the 2% together.